it's a good time of night racing, and we did a car
What
show.
time is the first green flag?
About 4 o'clock.
Okay, so, boy,
It's only supposed to be 112 on Saturday, so it'll be a break from yesterday and today.
Throw them kids in fire suits. That would be a good thing for them.
Well, you know, it's conditioning. It helps their conditioning.
For what?
That's one way to look at it.
Yeah.
For when they go to the sweat lodge up in Sonoma or something. Holy.
Well, you know, Canyon's running the additiion Canyon, they're running their shows all summer long.
That's true. And well, they start at 7.
Yeah.
Don't they? So.
But, you know, you're still out there packing the track at what?
Yeah.
6:30?
Yeah,
So-
most of those guys and gals can afford to lose the weight.
Yeah.
It's not that big a deal for them. You know, they can both drop someone the size of your kids and still be able to feel around a little bit.
I went out to Canyon a couple weeks ago, and I have to say Kevin Montgomery really has that place dialed in. He added some clay about a month or two ago.
Yeah.
And worked it in. I mean, the track was fast and smooth. I think they ran 4 or 5 divisions, and the track held up the whole night. Good night of racing.
That's great to hear. I'd like to hear that.
You've not had your modified out then?
No, I had it at a car show yesterday. That's as close as I got to the track.
It's an asphalt queen now.
Yeah.
Do you display it only on dirt,
No,
or do you
garage
require a
only.
dirt pad when you go to a show?
Needs to be in shade. Now,
Just in the shade. Huh?
We're looking at possibly putting Austin in the pure stock later this year, or maybe for the winter series, and then if he's out there, I'll probably take the modified, and we'll.
There you go.
How old is Austin now?
13.
Okay, well, he's right at that age. Referenced Todd Bailey of the LTN hour earlier. He sent me CC'd me on a piece he was sending to an industry insider today, and we're going to talk a little bit about that. This has to be the youngest kid I've ever heard of racing against adults, and it's at a track you're familiar with, and it's pretty stunning. You know, when you say, "Well, when do you start young?" Yeah, this is something else. You're gonna be surprised.
Well, I'd have to say, I mean, he had Chad Boat and a whole bunch of Jeff Gordon.
Old timers.
Yeah, I mean, he was like 13, I think, when he got
Old
in the
timers.
sprint car.
Old timers compared
Wow.
to
They
this
started way
kid.
too late.
Can't wait to hear that one.
Yeah, this. I don't know where to. You know, this kid's got to show up in his footies or something. I mean, he's barely infant.
That'll be interesting.
Well, anyhow, said we haven't been here for a little bit, but we're going to continue doing what we do. We've got some observations, opinions, and we've always got some minutia for you. And I guess that's my favorite part. It always has been my favorite part of Racing Roundup, is being able to latch on to some of the more obscure things or the more surprising things in regards to what's happening in motorsports. And there's some strange stuff that continues to happen. And we're going to tell you tonight, interesting. But anyhow, hey, NASCAR's 20 races into the season, in their 26th race to the chase, where they eliminate everybody but about a dozen folks from the championship for the final 10 races of the season. And yeah, they've got, I think, this will be race number 21 coming up this weekend in Watkins Glen, so there's a half a dozen chances to make the chase.
Well, this could throw a monkey wrench into the wild card. You get someone like a Marcos Ambrose or one of the better road racers in there.
Well, I tell you, one of them I'm looking forward to, Andy and I and a number of others are still in a fantasy motorsports league where it's put together by Paul Corliss, who was the media director at Phoenix International Raceway before moving on at the end of the season. And we're in a league with him, and I'm picking, because it's a road, because I'm picking Brian Vickers is once again back. And Vickers is a good racer. Vickers is the kind of guy who could steal a race in a road course, just because he's a heck of a talent. And he's got, he ran in 24 hours of Daytona for Rolex this year, which was a surprise to me, and he did quite well, and he did quite well in that first road course race over at Sonoma. So I think that he's got to be the wild card that I'm going to be picking in that 55 car. Good car, good equipment. That Waltrip stuff is just smoking.
Yeah.
And
Mark Martin's lighting it up in that thing.
Yeah, they've split the races around pretty well, and Vickers has been fortunate enough to draw, because Martin doesn't like road courses especially. So Vickers has drawn the nod in that 55 car this week, and I think he's a real threat to be a
I picked him also.
wild
and
card. I haven't
going by
picked him yet, but I hope to if I remember.
Going by the statistics, he was number one of the guys that were not the regular top 10 guys, so he was number one out of those guys.
Was he?
You would almost have to throw, after the last road course race, Kurt Busch in there.
Yeah.
I mean,
The only thing with him is because of the team budget or whatever, I don't know about their equipment. It seems like they have a lot of problems with that. So
well, I
I know he could wheel a car, of course.
He had a shot at the last race. I thought he had a real good shot.
He ran second there, didn't he?
Yeah, but he clipped the wall and knocked the rear end out of it.
Yeah, he's been driving harder than anybody in that series this year. And
well, he has to save his. He's
career.
got to drive harder than his mouth works. And
that said,
that's some hard driving.
That said, I know in the 20 races run so far, he's only run 19 of them. He sat out one race. I think was it the 500 he didn't run? Daytona 500?
Well, he was parked, right? I mean,
yeah, he was parked for a race.
Okay, well, anyhow, he's one race short, but he's still in the top 25 in points, and he still made $2.5 million so far. So, I think he's pulling his weight.
Oh yeah. As far as a driver, yes.
And he had a big surprise this year. Obviously, has to be Dale Earnhardt Jr. The fact that he has kept it together this long. He's got one win, but I think more impressively, the thing he's done is been able to run in the top 5, the top 10, and
he had a strong run going last week in the Pocono, and then he broke.
Yeah, he's had some real adventures in his career. Do you remember when he couldn't do a pit stop where the crap and he was spinning out, running into his guys, wrong lap, doing all kinds of stuff. He seems to have it all together this year. Now, whether or not he can keep it together through the start of the chase and then into the chase, if he's got the head and the shoulders to be able to figure out how to stay on top or where he is now at the end of the season and be a champion for the first time, that's going to be the thing. And his head I think is going to be where it's centered. So
I saw an interview with him, and he talked about the last few years where he wasn't in on the team meetings, and he'd go take a snooze before the race or during practice or whatever it was, instead of.
I think it was because he finally shaved that hillbilly beard he had.
Yeah. But his head's in the game.
Yeah.
Now, and he's in the team meetings, and he's talking to the engineers and to the crew chief, and they're really figuring the thing out.
Well, I think some of it too might be the people he's surrounded with now. You got Jimmy Johnson. When you're sitting there, okay, I'm Dale Earnhardt Jr. and I've got all this stuff, but I've never won that championship. And I'm sitting next to Jimmy Johnson on one side, and I've got Jeff Gordon on the other side, and Casey Kane is no slouch. He's first year there, and he's already making him mark. There's a guy who's got more bad luck than a wash or allow, but I think the pressure is to be, it's Jerry and the future Mrs. Gunderman. Good boy, looking scenic and summary over there. I think that the real tale of junior season is going to see how well he handles the playoffs, because right now he'd be the top seed, but that can go away in one lap.
Yeah.
So.
Well, how about Carl Edwards? I'm shocked he's way back in 12th, and he's not one of the. He hasn't won a race yet, so he's not one of the wild cards either.
Well, you look at Carl Edwards, and I think you got the Denny Hamlin story from a year ago. Hamlin thought he had that championship. He was right down there, 1-2, 1-2, 1-2. And he ended up going to a shrink to try and get his head squared back on. Yeah, he sought professional help to help him deal with,
with losing.
With not getting the championship.
Okay, he lost.
Yeah, well, I think that he didn't know why he lost it. I didn't tell him to go to the shrink, but he went to a shrink.
Well, I saw an interview with Carl, and that was one of the things he said. Not that he's seeing a shrink, but he said that a lot of people are saying that he hasn't gotten over the fact that Smoke got that championship from him, last year, and that he hasn't gotten over it. And he says that's not it at all. He goes, we're just not hitting on all cylinders on
he's had
and everything.
He's had a lot of breaks, which more so than any of the other Roush folks. But he's had some changes in life. He's a dad now, and but I don't know why they're not performing better, but it doesn't seem to be Carl's doing. He doesn't seem to be the cog that's not making it work.
You still have to wonder about the ABC equipment within a 3 or 4 car team. I mean, because you've got Kenseth and Biffle are strong week in and week out, and you have to wonder, who gets the better equipment if there is such a thing.
Well, there's been a crew chief change too. Osborne's not there any longer.
Yeah.
And
That could have a big part to do.
I think it's the communication process once again. Him and Osborne had worked together for quite some time. Why they split, I have no idea. That said, they're not there together, and they seem to be having the problems. Kent's is actually leaving the joint, and he's still second in points. So I don't think they're going to give him the A stuff and Carl not the A stuff.
Yeah, good point, yeah.
So I think they all have the same equipment. I think it's just probably a communication issue between him and his crew chief. So, hey, that's good.
Yeah.
A little bit of...
We got a little techno rap going on in the background.
Anyhow, looking at the chase as it stands right now, the top dozen would be Earnhardt, Kenseth, Biffle, Johnson, Truex, Stewart, Keselowski. Keselowski's got an interesting story. His last year in a Dodge, so that's going to change for him. Hamlin in 8th, Harvick 9th, Boyer 10th, Casey Kane 11th, Edwards 12th, Jeff Gordon 13th, and he'd get that wild card thing because of the win. So, Edwards isn't out of it yet. He's just got to...
You got to look at the driver in 15th as well, Kyle Busch. He's got 1 win, but he can catch fire any time and reel off 2-3 wins. I mean, he has in the previous years.
Yeah, well, with the top 4 drivers, Earnhardt, Kenseth, Biffle, and Johnson separated by only 8 points, heading into Watkins Glen this week, I'd be surprised if Earnhardt or Biffle are in those top 4 come next week. Neither one of them are noted road racers. So, Kenseth can usually hold his own, but we could have a complete, shakeup, or we could have folks moving a lot closer. Tony Stewart's 53 back. Truex is a pretty good road racer.
Well, Tony's at his times.
Yeah, well, I'm saying, these guys, you could have another 4 or 5 folks within,
I would have to think
10, 15 points coming out of Watkins Glen.
Keselowski's probably the hungriest, hardest working of them all. I mean, at least in my eyes.
Yeah, when all those Dodges he can tear up since they're not coming back anymore.
They're not going to need them
He's going to
anymore.
be a Ford next year. So. I think that the points as we look at it tonight with it could be completely different come next week. I'm sure those 4 will be right there, but maybe not in that order. And the gap between the 10th spot actually in the top 4, I think, is going to close dramatically. Kenseth is no well-known road racer. Biffle. Johnson probably, is the best of the top 4 in points as far as road racers go.
Yeah.
But after that, there's some people breathing down their necks. Plus, you got the wild cards.
Yeah.
And I think the wild card really is going to be Brian Vickers coming in there. He's always got something to prove, and that Waltrip equipment has just been smoking this year.
You got Ambrose in 18th in points. Now, there's another wild card that could easily reel off a win. And I mean, those petty cars have been strong, at least in qualifying. And they've been running pretty strong for the majority of the races. They haven't shown the finishes, but
I think it's going to be a pretty good race. There's so many good road racers in here now. Kyle Busch is a good road racer. Paul Menard, formerly Trans Am, racer. Joey Logano, who's already won a Cup race on a road course. Marcus Ambrose, like you said, McMurray. Juan Montoya, how can you count him out? Kurt Busch. I think this is maybe the best Cup race of the season, and God knows they need a good Cup race because so many of them sucked. But that's our any picks for this week.
Well, I know in my fantasy league, like I said, Brian Vickers. I had
Now, who do you pick in the win? I don't want. Give me your win.
I think Ambrose would have probably
Ambrose?
the best shot.
I'll take Kyle.
Kyle Busch. Boy, I don't know who to go with. I think I'm going to try. Going with Stewart. I think Tony's got their number.
Good pick.
So we'll see next week who does what. I also want to talk a little bit about the Nationwide Series. Possibly one of the more boring series in all of racing. Legitimately, there's less than 15 cars capable of winning any given race because that's about where the funded programs that are
15
worth a
cars,
crap live.
but how many drivers?
Less than that. I look at this roster of racers, and there's not a lot of racers on here.
Well, Austin Dillon and Elliott Sadler, obviously, they're in Childress equipment, which is A1 equipment, and
Yeah, they've been the top of the food chain for the Nationwide Series for quite a while. Harvick, pick someone. It always performs well.
Stenhouse Jr. started real strong, and he's kind of faded lately, and maybe he's looking forward to that NASCAR ride. And
Yeah, that's possible. And look at the guy who I think has showed the most improvement this year, and I think he's really going to take that opportunity at next level is Hornish. He's racing much better. I think he finally reached the point where he understands stock cars. I think he's doing a pretty good job in the Nationwide Series. He finally having some things go his way. I'm looking him getting more comfortable each week now that Allmendinger is gone.
Well, I don't know the news on that. Is he going to finish the rest of the season
Yeah.
for Allmendinger's
Yeah,
spot?
Hornish has got the ride through the remainder of the season, as I understand, which is good. I think he's been there, he's not been there, and I think he realizes this is his last greatest opportunity. If he doesn't make a decent showing in that Allmendinger stuff through the end of the year, he might want to go back to Indy cars or move on to sports car
stay in the
racing or
Nationwide.
something. I don't think a Nationwide ride will be there any longer.
with Penske and Dodge pulling out, you don't think it?
No, I don't think why he's an aging driver now.
But he does do the Speed Center show.
Yeah, he does.
So
Yeah, I don't see that happening.
He is the Andrew Weed of Speed Center.
I think the only person who's really delivered on the expectations, at least our expectations, in the Nationwide Series this year is Danica Patrick. She's 10th in points, pretty much driven to the top of her ability, which is nil.
I don't see the DNF stat. I wish I had that on there. I think it's more than half of the
she
races.
did have a good race at Elkhart Lake, and she wouldn't have got taken out by Villeneuve if she would have been racing harder.
How many times did you watch Villeneuve take people out? You know what's going to happen in those races.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But she ran. She was.
She can race the car.
Yes.
I don't think there's ever been a question. I don't think we've ever said that she couldn't drive a race car. But she can't race worth a damn. And she proves that week in and week out. And it's a good thing that, GoDaddy has given Junior a whole bunch of money because, she was supposed to be the savior of NASCAR. Remember, she was going to shoot the ratings through the roof,
Yeah.
TV ratings. They're behind last year. And you know what? IndyCar ratings are up. So you tell me how much she brings to the party other than making the media feel good about themselves. Ooh, we're going to champion her. She's so good. And she sucks.
How long do you think that GoDaddy money's going to last, since they've already kind of moved more towards Hinchcliffe than her as far as using it for promotional stuff?
Well, I think that they see the right, even GoDaddy recognizes that she can't drive a race car. She's not going to be the one to put him in any winner's circle. Hinchcliffe, on the other hand, is, I believe, sitting third or fourth in points in the Indy Racing Series. Been a threat to win virtually every race he's been in. And I think he's younger. They want to move in that direction. Plus, he's Canadian, so he brings a bigger, broader demographic.
I didn't think about that. That's right.
Well, the biggest thing is he's capable of winning.
Yeah, well, that's it.
I mean,
How much money do you want to put in a program to continue be a back marker? Your exposure for her in NASCAR has pretty much been on a hook.
well, they always interview her.
Well, sure,
They'll-
gets
where she finished
she
it,
gets
but-
the TV time, but
They'll get
people,
first place, and then they'll go to 19th place, Danica, and then maybe they'll get second, third, and fourth in there.
and the only ones who are enamored with her are the media. They got to quit watching a race with one hand in her lap and call a spade a shovel. She's a good race car driver, but she's no racer. She's proven that essentially through 2 series now, and I can't imagine how ugly it's going to be next year when she's scheduled to drive a full-time Cup season, which is what
she?
the plan is. She's going to be in Cup full-time next year. This was the year she was going to make all the headway. And
In
she
Nationwide?
thinks she's getting pushed around in the Nationwide Series when there's a maximum of 15 good cars there.
Yeah.
There's no patience, no time. She's going to get to the back. She's going to be real busy not getting wrecked and getting out of people's way next year. And now, which it might help her that they're changing cars. They're a little bit lighter, but it's not going to make a difference. It's just going to make it more difficult for her to drive. So,
Well, I wonder if they're going to look at that plan.
Hey,
At the
that's
end of the season.
well. If they look at that plan, they better look at where the money is.
Yeah.
I think the money is dictating the plan. That's how she got this right. It's the money. I think Junior said, "Gee, I think she's really, really a good driver, and she's already made $465,000 this year. How many dollars worth of race cars has she tore up? You got to balance it at some point in time. But she's obviously getting overpaid for." And Junior's getting overpaid for that. But next year it's going to be even uglier when she's full-time Cup. Maybe that's why they're eliminating that top 35, because then it should be a go or go home.
Yeah, she won't even be in there.
So if they do, and I hope NASCAR, I mentioned it, it's on the table. It's not a done deal yet, but NASCAR is looking at going back to qualifying and racing the fastest 43 cars, which I think is
It should be that way.
it's common sense. Yeah, don't put the top 43 fastest cars in there. Put the 35, and then a bunch of fast cars go home. So I think that's going to be good for NASCAR. It's going to help them do some things. That 2013 car, which is 100 pounds lighter, and as I understand, only about 10% of the body is NASCAR dictated, which means you're going to put the crew chief and the fabricators back in the business of fixing race cars and moving stuff around. I think it's Jerry Gunderman may want to get back into the business now that you might be able to have the opportunity to actually affect what happens to the car without having a cadre of engineers moving stuff along.
Which crew chief do you think will be able to massage those bodies quickest to get the most out of it?
Jimmy Fennick. Jimmy Fennick, Chad Knaus.
That would have been my pick, is Knaus.
I think it may work to a detriment to some of the younger guys who have pretty much just had their entire careers dictated by NASCAR's templates, and that would be who's the kid with Jeff Gordon who's finally figuring out these cars?
Not Letarte.
Yeah, Steve.
No,
not Letarte, but
Alan
Gustafson.
Gustafson.
I think the younger crew chiefs are going to have a tougher time of it, because when you go back to the template that the manufacturers are sending you, all of a sudden things are different. It's not all interchangeable. That's where the tweaking process comes in.
There's ingenuity in it now, and there's
you're putting the crew chiefs, you're putting the teams back, into the equation. It's not going to be just everybody driving the same thing. What stickers do we slap on it to make it look like a Dodge, make it look like a Chevy, make it look like a Ford? Those days are over.
Where's Smokey Eunuch when you need him?
I think there's a lot of smoky eunuchs out there. They just haven't had a chance to go to work. But I think a Fennig is going to have a leg up, because he's seen him come, he's seen him go, and there's people that tricks can't be learned on a computer. You have to actually see what happens to them.
Is he going along with Matt Kenseth? Or
Doubtful. I wouldn't think he would. I think he's probably got a pretty secure deal over at Roush. I don't know who he reports to. Robbie Reiser. Reiser asks him questions.
Sure.
So, I think that they're pretty solid over there. We'll have to see. I think next year is going to be much more interesting. One of the things I've seen that the drivers have indicated was that they're a little concerned about the tire that NASCAR has, because of the way the weight is on these cars now, that the tire they may have to do some tire work, because it's kind of exciting. I guess they had a test where they drove the current car and then they drove the new car, and I guess there's quite a bit of difference in the two of them, and the tires weren't matching up to the chassis and the configurations of the cars. So.
Well, Goodyear brings a different tire about every week to every track. I mean, they're constantly changing them. So
I don't know if they're talking width of the tire, the patch that it contacts with the track or what, but that's the first thing I've heard. Of course, drivers are always going to say that. It's the tires, it's the tires, it's the tires.
Yeah.
So, but that's about it for NASCAR. I think, good season so far, a decent season. I hope the racing gets better, because it hasn't been very good.
Well, there has
I think
been
the grandstands have reflected it.
In the Cup Series,
it's crazy to watch TV and look at all those empty seats up there. Anyways, go ahead, Jeff.
The Cup Series has had a wider range of winners this year than typical, though. I mean, it seems like in the past 4 or 5 years, there's been someone like Jimmy Johnson winning a bunch of them, and Kyle Busch, and there's only about 5 or 6 guys that win races. Now we've got what, 15?
Yeah, there's been a lot of different people visiting Victory Lane, and that's good. But still, they got to. They've already started going back to the future, as we talked about. Going back to actual cars. If they go back to the top 43 racing as opposed to that locked-in 35, go back to do the things when you were successful. All these changes and tweaks, including this chase. The chase still sucks. What is that all about? That has probably hurt the top tier of NASCAR more than anything, as we predicted it would, because every team is out there. Hey, you got a 26 race budget. If to make the chase, I'll give you enough to run the rest of the season. So teams have to plan for 36 races instead of just 26, because they don't know if they can make it against the Hendricks of the world, the Roushes, and those types of folks. And then next year also will be they're not going to be Dodge anymore. They're done. In fact, I guess we can why don't we go to that on this next one? Take a look at that. Just read the statement. When do you guys want to do it?
Sure.
Somebody handle it.
Okay, Dodge will be out of NASCAR at the end of the year. Dodge, which was faced with the rebuilding phase beginning in 2013 after Penske Racing, the lone NASCAR organization to field Dodges since 2009, chose to leave the manufacturer in favor of Ford Motor Company beginning next season. Industry sources question whether Dodge's parent company, Fiat, has any passion for NASCAR, leading Penske's decision to leave Ford. This isn't the first time Dodge has chosen to leave NASCAR. Their manufacturer pulled out of the sport in 1977 and didn't return until 2001. Since that time, Dodge has accumulated 55 Sprint Cup victories. Well, there used to be the advantage, like you were saying. He's the only one with Dodge, and when you go to a track to test, they got all the tests because they were the only Dodge manufacturer.
Right.
So they're going to lose that. But they weren't getting any financial help from Dodge.
Or engineering help, and I think that the key paragraph in his whole statement is that Fiat has no passion for NASCAR. Fiat is no longer an American company. Mm-hmm. They could care less what happens in NASCAR. They're trying to sell those little cars they make in Mexico, the 500.
Yeah.
That's their total business.
Yeah, but they've done a hell of a job with the Charger and the Challenger. I mean, they're cool-looking street cars. You see them all over the place. So at least, that part of it, I'd love to see them stay in NASCAR, but they're out there. They're doing the right thing, I would think, from a company standpoint.
Yeah, from an international company standpoint. Yeah. But, it's Dodge is gone.
You remember when
when our esteemed president basically gave the company to Fiat, you knew this wasn't far behind. I think anybody could have predicted that. So.
Well, you have to hope Chevrolets. I couldn't see them going anywhere.
No, they're not going to go anywhere except out of business, perhaps. Yeah.
That's the other company he gave away. So.
Anyhow, with Dodge out of NASCAR, that's really going to change things again. It's a smaller world. So, Roush is going to be the kingpin over there for Ford, and Hendricks obviously at Chevy, and probably Waltrip at Toyota. So, it's going to be a smaller world. So they're going to have to do some things different. So, let's move on to. I think good news for the World of Outlaws.
STP is going to sponsor the World of Outlaws. The STP World of Outlaws STP series Thursday at Knoxville Raceway. It will be the first title sponsor for the series since Advance Auto Parts left the series at the end of the 2008 season. The series is expected to be renamed World of Outlaws STP series beginning next season. It will be interesting to see how the new title sponsorship will affect the Tony Stewart Racing, number 15, of four-time series champion Donnie Schatz. The team has been sponsored by STP the past 2 seasons.
I got to think Schatz is still going to be able to find a sponsor, as will Tony Stewart. But
I wonder what the dollar figure is on something like sponsoring a series like that.
The World of Outlaws?
Yeah.
Boy, I don't know. It's good to see STP back in the business.
Oh, definitely,
they used to be a staple, either Indy cars and
Some other guy, I don't know.
yeah, that petty guy that throw that 43.
The king.
But to have them step up in a fashion like this, of course, STP I think is appealing to the right consumer. People who go to sprint car races and dirt track races are still working on their cars.
A little more blue collar.
Yeah, they're working. They understand what they want to put in their engines and their cars. So I think STP is fishing in the right pond. And I think Stewart will be able to find somebody to fill up a 4-time series champ Donnie Schatz. If not, his parents' company may come back. Isn't those convenience stores, Casey's General Store?
Yeah. Oh, really?
I think that's his family's business. When we had him on a show a few years back, when we were at Max's, he in fact was flying his own airplane.
Schatz was?
Yeah. And that's why he couldn't have a beer with us, because he had to fly home that night.
Wow.
So, hey, but we talked about Penske in a couple of different veins in regards to Allmendinger, in regards to Dodge pulling out. This is a little closer to home. I don't even believe this. 2 sons of Roger Penske were arrested early Thursday morning. That's this morning. By Island police for an alleged break-in at the Nantucket Yacht Club after 2 women claimed they had been assaulted in the club's parking lot. Jay Penske, 33, who owns the IndyCar racing team Dragon Racing, along with his brother Mark Penske, 35, were arrested just before 2 a.m. Thursday on South Beach Street. According to a police report, the incident was initially reported as an assault and battery when 2 women approached police on Broad Street claiming they had been assaulted by 2 men, later identified as the Penske brothers, at the yacht club's parking lot. Their parents, Roger and Kathy Penske, own a waterfront home on Nantucket in Pocono. No, that's not right. It's not Pocono. On Nantucket Island. Anyhow, that's the news from the Penske family. Did you hear that, Jerry?
That's a shocker.
33 and 35. Geez, Roger. What kind of kids you raising?
I wonder if they're married.
Pardon?
Yeah, really.
Of course, as rich as Roger Penske is, there might be people just as richer in Nantucket. So, anyhow, Roger's dealing with that. First, Allmendinger gets busted for Adderall.
He's dealing with all kinds of stuff.
Loses his driver, loses his manufacturer, kids getting arrested.
They're trying to live like the Kennedys or something.
Yeah, maybe it's that East Coast Sea thing. They're starting to live like Kennedys.
Or the Francis.
Yeah, the Francis. Don't live too close to the oceans. Go back to Detroit, Roger.
Maybe that's it.
So,
that's shocking.
Who wants to do this World of Outlaws thing here?
I'll get it. The World of Outlaws late models. Daryl Lanigan picked up his 12th World of Outlaws late model series Triumph of the Year Monday at Independence, Iowa Motor Speedway. Lanigan's $10,650 victory was his 5th in a row, 12th of the season, and 38th of his career in the World of Outlaws late model series. All significant numbers in the history of the renowned full-fendered circuit. Already the holder of the World of Outlaw late models modern era, which is 2004 to present, single-season win record after registering his 10th checkered flag on July 14th at North Central Speedway in Brainerd, Minnesota. Lanigan tied the Tour's all-time single-season win standard set by Billy Moyer in 1989 during the
No, it wasn't Billy. It's another Moyer.
By Moyer in 1989 during the initial 2-year run of the series under late World of Outlaws series sprint car founder Ted Johnson. Lanigan also set a new modern era record for consecutive wins, surpassing the 4 race streaks authored by Rick Eckert in 2006 and Tim Fuller in 2009, and tied the Kid Rocket Josh Richards for the top spot on the Tour's win list since 2004. In addition, he is now tied with Richards and Moyer for the most all-time World of Outlaw late model series victories, including the 1988 and 89 seasons.
Yeah, that wasn't correct, Chuck, but I thought it was Billy Moyer too, but it's another Moyer.
It's got to be Billy Moyer.
No, it's not.
In 1989, he's been around.
This was a guy who's now retired. So, you look at, it goes all the way back to, 77 or something is when this started. So it was some guy, I don't know if it was Billy Moyer's dad or what. It was like a Mike Moyer.
Wow.
Which surprised me, too. I should have left that first name in there. But it was not Billy. And Billy's a racer on a balloon. So
I would have thought it was a misprint.
in the release they sent? Well, you'll have to contact them. This next one is a real surprise. You probably remember this kid from racing modifieds out at. I remember seeing him out at Casa Grande a couple of years back. Chase Austin.
Was he racing at Casa Grande?
Yeah, he was during the Winter Series.
During that winter heat deal?
Kid out of Kansas. Chase Austin has a chance to make history. A.J. Foyt and his racing team would like nothing better. Austin will try to become only the third African-American driver to compete in the Indianapolis 500 after being selected by Foyt to drive his entry in the 2013 Classic. The 22-year-old Austin has been driving since he was 8 years old. He became the youngest driver to sign a driver development contract in NASCAR when he was 14. He has driven in several series, most recently Indy Lights. Although he has yet to drive at the highest level of the sport for very long, Austin was seen as a promising newcomer by Foyt, a four-time winner of the Indy 500. Austin has raced in 6 NASCAR Nationwide Series races, 3 in the Truck Series, and 4 in Indy Lights. He's run some stock cars, he's run some sprint cars, he's run the dirt, and he's run a lot of races in different types of cars and go-karts, Foyt said. He's won in a lot of different race cars. Austin's shot at Indy came as a result of talks between Chris Miles of Starting Grid, an advocacy group for minorities in motorsports, and Foyt Racing's Larry Foyt, son of the former driver and day-to-day head of his racing team. The arrangement between Foyt and Austin, announced by A.J. Foyt during qualifying for this weekend's IndyCar race at Mid-Ohio, is most likely limited to the Indy 500. All sides deflected questions about other races and tests. If he qualifies for the Indy 500 next May, Austin would follow in the footsteps of Willie Ribbs, the first African-American driver at Indy in 1991, and George Mack. And that's pretty huge news because, he's never been in an IndyCar and he's going to attempt to run the 500.
Yeah, but if he's running Indy Lights, I'm not saying they're comparable, but there's so many drivers that have come through the Indy Lights and stepped into the Indy car, so he'll be familiar with the general dynamics of the car.
Yeah, it's a real opportunity, but still it's a kid that really hasn't. He's driven a lot of stuff, but he hasn't been super outstanding really in anything. It's good for him. I hope things work out, but that's pretty heady stuff when all of a sudden, you're going 240 miles an hour down a straightaway at Indy, flat footing around the place.
Yeah, really. So you think that would be the only car that A.J. Foyt would enter in the race? Or?
No, I'm sure he'll have a couple of others. I suspect that he was approached by this group, and they're bringing the money. They figured, well, if we're going to take this kid anywhere, opportunities are so limited in NASCAR, and maybe they feel at 22 they don't want to. He's not making the headway, or he can't get the full-time ride that he really needs. So if he could make an impact at something like the Indy 500, what better stage worldwide?
Well, the crazy thing about that is at 22, he's almost over the hill to make the step to big-time racing.
Yeah, well, you think about it, you look at the people who are in the young rides at NASCAR, whether it's, he's not going to knock any of the Childress grandkids out of a ride.
No.
So those are locked up. What are you going to knock Jimmy Johnson out? There aren't a whole lot of openings for young drivers any longer in NASCAR. There's people whose careers are wasting away in trucks. They're wasting away in nationwide, and they're not making any headway in the Cup Series. So you look to where you can get the biggest stage, and that would probably be the Indy cars. If he does a nice job there, and he is an oval racer by trade, IndyCar as a series pretty much is probably 75 to 80% road course anymore. So
it said he raced karts, so he's got that road course training.
Yeah, but he raced karts when he was 8 years old.
Now, a lot of these guys still race karts on a regular basis. A lot of these drivers.
Yeah, but if you're trying to run NASCAR in the trucks, you're trying to run NASCAR in, you get seat time, but still.
That's how they stay tuned. All these guys do it.
Yeah, I don't think that many Cup guys are running karts during the week. I think most of them are doing sponsor stuff and testing, in stock cars. There's a reason there's only 2 road courses.
I'm talking IndyCar drivers.
Yeah, well, that's why I'm saying. That's why he's going in that direction. I think, it's critical that you do it in Indy cars, but has he spent the time to be able to compete obviously not in the whole series. I'm sure that's why he's only at the Oval. If he does good at the 500, they might put him in a car in Milwaukee 2 weeks later.
Yeah, there you go.
You know, but
Well,
those IndyCar guys been running karts just like Chase Austin has, and they've never gotten out of them. So it's pretty hard to catch up to that when you're 22, and they're 18 and 19 and 20 years old too, and they're already got a couple of years under their belt.
Well, you wish him the best, and hopefully,
Oh,
he brings good media coverage that.
Yeah, of course he's going to bring the media coverage. It's going to be another freak show. It's like Danica Patrick. They're going to focus on the individual and rather than his skills and his ability to compete at that level. That's what they're going to do. I'm not going to award the kid any credentials because he hasn't proven himself yet. I wish him the best of luck, but at this point in time, he's no better than any other 22-year-old who has never done anything in trucks, never done anything in Nationwide Series. Did a couple of things. I remember him from one day in a dirt car out at Casa Grande. He seemed like a nice kid, and he seemed to do a good job, but he didn't win.
Yeah.
So, it's just another, okay, who's the next media star that's not going to make it? Who's the next disappointment? If he doesn't make this, where does he go from there? He's proved he can't drive another thing. So.
Well, I wish him the best of luck.
We all wish him the best of luck, like I would any other kid going there. Whether he deserves this ride, doubtful.
Was he the one that was signed by Joe Gibbs as the developmental driver?
I think so.
No, that's Darrell Wallace Jr.
No, this was way
but
back.
This kid, I said, I can't remember who signed him, but he was 14 years old when he signed a NASCAR contract, and he's 22 years old now. So, that's got to give you an indication of something. If he was a developmental driver, he certainly had some opportunities if he was signed at 14 years of age. And at 22, we're talking about a guy who may be washed up. This is his last shot. So, another near miss. Another IndyCar thing, Phoenix.
Yeah, you want me to do that one?
Yeah, that's a Michael Knight piece. I paraphrased it, chopped it down a little bit from his article in the Republic for a little bit.
IndyCar Series CEO Randy Bernard says he considers a 2014 event a must as part of the PIR's Oval's 50th anniversary season. So it'll be the 2014 will be the 50th. I was thinking it was 2013. Said Bernard, we think there's significant value in that race and it's an important market to us. Said Brian Sperber, PIR president, we reviewed the necessary financial commitments from both sides. We proposed a marketing budget that would be on par with the resources we spend to promote each NASCAR weekend in order to show we're serious about working with them to produce a serious event should we agree to schedule it. In the end, there was a number of factors that have likely sidelined the 2013 race, but the spirit of the discussions was so positive, we've all agreed to focus on trying to make something happen for 2014.
That would be my understanding is 2013 race basis, the IndyCar schedule, the optimum time would have been somewhere around March. Yeah, but it didn't.
Too close to
it wasn't,
the race.
No, they didn't feel that. They thought that it wasn't compatible to the IRL series at this early. In 2013, it was because they had already pretty much set their schedule.
Oh.
But they think that they might have an opportunity in 2014.
They need to bring it back in the Copper World. What was that, early February?
Yeah, last part of January, first part of
Yeah,
February.
but Indy doesn't even start that early now anymore, so.
Yeah. And
They can change that.
And that wasn't, Indy was never a part of that either originally.
But that would be a...
That was something added in later. Huh?
Yeah, I would love to see something. And maybe that'll happen. We don't know. I suspect it would be the Indy Lights series as well, would be a part of that show. From the article, it seems like there were,
And it'll be new to see an IndyCar on the new track, too. Because remember before, they would do 3 laps in a minute. I wonder how much faster it would be now with the...
Yeah,
the
their
track
laps,
different.
their lap times were 20 seconds, which means that each minute they were doing 3 laps in those Indy cars.
Right.
You pretty much had to watch them through turns 3 and 4 because you weren't going to see anything going down the front straightaway because they were moving so quick. I personally want to see it back. I hope they take their time and do it right. And it's good to see that Randy Bernard has eaten his crow. He called Brian Sperber a name a few years ago, which really iced talks for a while. And
Wasn't friend?
it wasn't friend, and it wasn't even frenemy or whatever they call it. But I think that they, they've agreed that maybe at some point in time there's a mutual reason for them to do this.
Right.
I'm suspicious that that an ISC track would spend as much money to promote an IndyCar race as they would a NASCAR.
It sounds
race.
like that's the sticking point now. They
Well-
got the early date, which is one of the big points I know before was they wanted to stick him in the summer, and Indy's like, no way.
Yeah.
Which makes sense. So the fact they're giving an early date means they're getting closer. And I'm sure they just want to bring down the purse money so they can promote it, and then they'll make it work.
Yeah, I think what they were looking for is a date which is they wanted to be at least 30 days away, if not 6 weeks away from the Cup race.
At least, yeah.
And I would really welcome, even if it's that, I would welcome to see a night race. I would like to
that'd
see
be
a
a-
PIR
yeah.
night race. I think that would really differentiate it and give them an opportunity to get a better crowd.
Well, and they shot the NASCAR, night race, which was by far the best race in comparison to the daytime race.
Yeah, I would
Yeah.
much rather
And
see
they
NASCAR.
still have the lights out there. I don't know how much did they spend on those lights, and they're not using them.
Really, and
Yeah.
now's the time. Now that you got the lights back, I would love to see him bring the Grand Am series back.
Yeah,
Which I thought, they ran a couple of times at night, and I thought that was spectacular to see.
that was a summertime race, though, wasn't it? I mean,
Yeah, it was like in June. It was hot.
Yeah.
It was a toasty race, and you didn't want to go out there until the evening. But that was a good show. I'd like to see that one come back again. So, anyhow, that's pretty much all of the prepared things we've got in this reunion of sorts. Do have one other final piece that I'd like to mention, and I talked about at the top of the show about how young is young, and we talked about Chase Austin at 22 possibly having his last opportunity to become a full-time racer. Get this, and this comes from Todd Bailey. Remember the days when they were bright young talents that we like to keep an eye on as they progress through the ranks? Remember when we were stunned to find a kid as young as 17 years old that seemed to have the gift? Prepare yourself for this one. There's a kid racing at Slinger in the entry-level division that will bear keeping an eye on. He has already won one feature and is currently second in points. He's 10. 10 years old. He starts 5th grade this fall. He's about average height for a 4th grader, probably a few inches less than 5 feet. He's aggressive, fearless, has great coaching, and shows up at the driver's meeting in uniform. This is the same Slinger Speedway where 67-year-old Al Schill recently won the feature at Slinger in the Super Late Models. And Todd wonders if there's another feature winner, track that has feature winners 57 years of age apart. And the kid's name is Grant Griesbach. That's Griesbach, just like it sounds. And 10 years old to be driving a full-bodied car is at Slinger, which if you have not been there is a treat unto itself.
The world's fastest quarter-mile paved oval.
And Todd tells me that the kid, clean racer, good head, but he's 10 years
10
old.
years old.
So this is a kid who, maybe knocking a 15-year-old out of a seat in some other series.
Yeah, think when he's 22, he'll have 12 years in a full-bodied car, or at least
Yeah.
racing at a.
And to your point, Chuck, my understanding is that he obviously came up through the karting ranks beginning at about 5 till I guess 8 or 9 when he decided to move on. But
Once you graduate 4th grade, it's time to move into a full-size car.
we'll see what happens once that kid gets to puberty. Then all hell breaks loose.
Yeah, it says he's a clean and aggressive driver. So wait till he hits puberty.
Yeah, he'll be aggressive at that time, I'm sure.
Hey, were you going to mention about Patrick Neyland going into?
Oh, that's right. Chuck had a little noise on that. Oh, you don't want to? Well, anyhow, we just received confirmation. Once again, as he has for the past 3 or 4 years, Pat Neyland and crew will be covering the U.S. Nationals at the, I think it's called the Matco Tools Raceway Park, which was the old O'Reilly, and
Now it's
prior to that, Indianapolis Raceway
Yeah,
Park.
IRP.
And before that, way back in the old days, our friend Scott Simpson used to be the PR director there when it was IRP
Yep.
years ago. Well, anyhow, Patrick and Robert Anderson, Bob Anderson are going to be heading out there doing a coverage. And these are guys who are passionate about straight line, and then it's going to be good to hear from them on that. And I want to thank them for blocking out their weekends, a whole weekend actually of Labor Day weekend to head to over there and spend time and make sure everything comes off according to the Racing Roundup plan. So, hey, thanks a lot, Patrick. Thanks a lot, Robert.
Yes.
And thanks a lot, especially to the NHRA folks for hooking us up there.
And I'm going to go ahead and go to the season ender for IRL out there in Fontucky.
Yeah, that's right. They've got, well, you know, we do have one other thing. Chuck, I think you looked at it. We do have the current point standings. And to your point, Brian, season ender, they've got 3 races to go. I think they're at Sonoma this week, and streets
When
of
does their
Baltimore.
chase start? Oh, wait. That's the first race of the season, right?
Yeah. I think that started about 15 ago or something like that. So they got a pretty good battle going here. There's a bunch of guys that with 77 points per event available, to be garnered, and with a couple of those, one a street course, one a road course, and Fontucky, things just happen at these places.
Well, and you have what the top 4 are all different teams. You have Penske, Andretti, Penske, and then Chip Ganassi.
Yeah, Ganassi Racing. And then Hinchcliffe, who we mentioned a couple of times, the kid out of Canada who's the new GoDaddy hero. He's sitting 5th in points, and he's still legitimately in the champion. You look at it, probably the top 7 folks have at least a good, strong mathematical opportunity to win this race. Mm-hmm. You get Will Power and Hunter Ray and Castro Neves, all guys who race together, who could have any kind of a weekend and get together. There's been a lot of DNFs this year in some of these top runners. Nobody's ran away with it. We've even seen Dario Franchitti crash a couple of times this year, which is almost
they're trying to
unheard of.
figure out the new engine and suspension packages and
the whole new body style.
Yeah,
the whole new body chassis. It's been a pretty interesting season. Those cars that I think they kind of look like Batmobiles, and I'd like to see them out of PIR. I think
what's pretty cool too is they can bump each other. And it doesn't just shred a wing
Tear
or
it off,
something.
yeah.
They can keep going.
Yeah, well, it was such a danger before. They've got guards over the wheels, so when they do get wheel to wheel, it's not automatically somebody going out of the place.
Flying out or
which,
whatever.
Was historically, what was happening.
It's
So,
a shame for Dan Weldon too, because he was the main driver that developed these cars.
yeah, Danny Weldon
Yep.
was missed and will continue to be missed. But that said, racing goes on, and it would be, I think it'd be nice to see Will Power finally grab a championship. He's
As long as he doesn't do the little jump off the car, he's all right.
yeah, that guy's got crazy eyes. If you ever look at him, anyhow, that's pretty much it. That's this rejuvenated edition of Racing Roundup Arizona, and good seeing you guys. Good talking a little
Good
racing.
being here.
It's a pleasure to
Great.
be here. Remember to get out and support your local dirt track. It's where all these guys started.
Absolutely. I'm Jamie Reynolds for Andy, the pipe layer wheat. Chuck, questionably cool. Pride of Sheboygan. Mr. 9.5.
And remember, just because we're not always doing broadcasts, you can always catch the website. Always has information.
Yeah, we pretty much
We're
update
posting
the...
a lot of things weekly, so
Yeah, we update the website on a regular basis. When we have the opportunity, we get together. And I believe Brian's already committed to NASCAR weekend. That Betsy's investing in new equipment, she tells me. So we're going to have a few things that are going to help us do a little bit better job and put some more pressure on Brian. But we will do at least 1 and possibly 2 shows live from Phoenix
from
International Raceway, where we've made our name. So we're going to have to get Alan Verville to make us up a new sign for the motor coach and plan things. So
Can I have my name on it?
probably not. We're not even going to do it on a start. He's still temporary after 3 years, Chuck. He's still temporary. Devil Woman, Lisa Wheat. I want to thank her for showing up. Hopefully she's going to help us break down later. Alpha Kitty, Betsy Reynolds, telling us what to do, when to do. Of course, how to do it each and every week. You guys got anything to contribute to the good of the cause other than drinking my beer tonight?
Drinking the beer sounds good.
It's been a pleasure to be here, and look forward to having some results from local races and kart races and you name it.
Yeah, I think we'll move forward and let Chuck and Andy design a show, and I'll just show up one night. That'll be cool. So it's about that time, guys.
That's that time.
Have at it, racers.